My name is Mr. Pruitt. I'll be your moderator. If any students at any time have a question, I'd encourage you to come back here where I'm at and get on the microphone because we're recording this and we want to pick it up real cleanly. I know you could ask a question from when you're not at the microphone, but it's going to sound better if you come over here where I'm at. We're going to start this panel off. This is the Creative Media Production panel, and thank y'all for coming. Our radio and creative media panel. Thank y'all for coming. We appreciate your time to come to University of Montevallo and tell us your knowledge that you or share your knowledge with us. And the way we'll get started is we're going to pass that handheld wireless mic off, and if y'all introduce yourselves, what you do, and then we'll have some questions as we go along. So everybody just introduce yourself and where you work and what you do.
Okay, very cool. All right, so I'm John Walden, and I really don't need this because I'm way loud anyway, but I'll use it for the sake of the camera. But I'm the general manager and the morning show guy at Revocation Radio, and the odds are you guys probably have not heard about us, so that's okay. We just launched a Birmingham frequency. We've been around since 2011, but we are very different. We do Christian rock, hip-hop, and alternative because everybody else is afraid to do it. So we decided to start a nonprofit and launch that back in 2011 because we're not all about making money off of Christians. I'm not saying that other Christian radio stations are, but that seems to be where it goes a lot of the time when you try to give something that's a little more different, a little more life-giving, a little more evangelistic. It's harder for the older audience to kind of grasp onto that. So it's a new generation for us, but excited to be here today, and I think that's a basic intro. So we'll move on.
Hey, I'm Mark Hendren. I'm a creative services producer at CBS 42. My primary focus is on the commercial side, so I make short form, 30-second, 15-second commercial spots that air on air, but also do longer form commercial productions for outside clients, as well as doing some promotion and stuff for the internal station promotions.
Hey, I'm Nate Dennis, and I'm an editor at Strong Automotive Merchandising. I pretty much just do post-production, motion graphics for 30-second TV spots for automotive clients.
Thank you, Nate. Philip Pitts with Pitts Media. We are a content company. Whether that be video, photography, web, more of the digital side of it, probably 90% of what we do goes digital and is not broadcast. So RJ will get into a little bit more of that later, but that's kind of the gist.
And I'm RJ. I'm the director of photography at Pitts Media. I take care of most of the production and all the drone work.
Okay, RJ, just hold on to the microphone, and we'll go back the other way. Could you explain, or just let the students know, like what when they leave Montevallo, what do they need to leave here understanding as far as software or people skills, or just in general, what are you looking for in a candidate for an employee?
Well, people skills is always a key. Working with people, understanding how to treat clients is extremely important in what all of us do. We interact with clients on a daily basis, whether it's on the phone or whether it's face-to-face. And then, of course, in production, post-production, whatever it may be, being talented in whatever software you want to be involved in, or, efficient on cameras, a wide range of cameras, whatever it may be. Uh-oh.
You want the same question? Will you repeat the question, please? I have a very short memory.
What should our students leave our program understanding and knowing, whether it's specific software or what you look for in an employee if you're going to hire somebody?
So personally, what I look for in an employee is work ethic, people skills, character, and I'm not particularly great at anything other than my God-given skills are people's, meeting people, the networking. And for me personally, and that's all I can speak to, the networking that I've done in the past has been the number one, the number one quality that I don't even know how to end that, but that's been, for me, the relationship side of it. Meeting new people has been the primary way that I have done my job. So That's, work ethic, work hard, and always be willing to learn, and attitudes, because in our business, the touch points, it's gotten more. I don't know, like Nate, how many clients do you talk to a day? Zero? So for us, in the way that we conduct our business, every single person within our organization talks to people. The customer experience is number one for us, and just having those people skills to interact, engage, just get to be friends. We like to partner with people. That's another thing. We're not just in it to go produce a video and one and done. We want to be their production arm. We want to help in any way we can possible. So just being nimble and working hard and having a good attitude, that's what it's all about for me.
Yeah, well, I guess I'll go a different direction. So I have less people skills, but since I'm working mostly by myself all day, one thing I have to be really good at is good time management skills, be able to prioritize my tasks, and be a little bit detail oriented for post-production, because you don't want to have some kind of spelling mistake or, some kind of technical error in your spots. So that's really more where my skill set took me, was post-production, just kind of working by myself.
When you say by yourself, like, could you tell them like what kind of software that you're by yourself with?
Yeah, well, I edit mostly in After Effects, just in the Adobe suite, and we have another guy that does Cinema 4D. It's a little more advanced, but that's some of our really heavy graphics. And that's pretty much all I work with, is pumping out content in those avenues.
I would say my job is kind of a mix of the two of these. There's days when I'll be out shooting, working with clients, talking directly to clients or indirectly through our sales associates to find out what our client wants and what they want. There's other days where I sit in my little edit bay and work in After Effects just like he does to finish the spot. I would say instead of trying to learn a specific software or a specific camera and really know that camera or that software, is to know the kind of how things work, how you want to edit, what you want to accomplish through your edit, through your shot, through your things. And then really from there, it's just learning the basics of how to make each different edit system or each different camera do what you want it to do. I mean, I know these guys use Sony cameras, we use Canon cameras, but because I've used a lot of different cameras, I could probably walk in and pick up their camera and after a few minutes have it figured out. And it's probably the same thing with RJ. I've worked with RJ before too, and he and I've shot bunches of different cameras before. Again, less specific any kind of software, but more the how and the why you make those decisions is the most important thing, how to create that content. And then your software is just your tool, and your camera is just your tool to accomplish that goal.
Well, since I'm much different than these guys with radio, what I look for in an employee is people that are willing to go above and beyond, and especially in the nonprofit world where we kind of wear multiple hats and do a lot of things. With me being the general manager and the morning show host, with how small of a staff we are, I do all the production on the commercials, and I voice most of the commercials as well. I mean, we are very much still in the growing phases. But when it comes to the radio side of things, I know that there's less people that are interested in that as we come up through the years. But radio is still a thing that 93% of Americans listen to on a weekly basis. Why? Because it's free. Why? Because you can find new things. But as far as bringing people in, if that's something you're interested in, man, just looking for somebody who's willing to talk to people, somebody that's willing to go out of their way. Radio, it can be such an incredible experience, and it makes me sad how much broadcast is hubbed in from the main cities, the 3, 4, maybe up to 10 main cities, and we got to get back to local broadcast, right? We've got to take care of the people, and for me, on a personal level, I want to make sure that every listener feels special. There's still something awesome about a radio shout out, right? I've been in radio since I was 19, and people still get excited. I'm talking about 40-somethings get giddy about you saying happy birthday to them or their kid or something. So Man, you've just got to be willing to make the people feel important, feel valuable, and be willing to reach out and just love them. I set up a free text line. You know, a lot of radio stations will have a text where you can request and they get it and you never hear about it again. Well, for me, I'm going to say people's names. I want to know where they're from. I want to know about their family. I want to know how I can pray for them. What can we do? What kind of ministry can I hook you up with locally if you've got financial issues, if you've got a friend or a family member going through something? So this experience in media is so much more than me being the voice or the face to give you something. You're just as important as the people that are on the air, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, thank you. Would each of you share your diploma, where you went to school at, and your first real job out in the workforce?
All right, so you're not going to want me to share this, but you asked me the question, so I'm going to. So for me, I did not expect to get into radio. I was a guy that wanted to be a pediatrician. I love people, I love kids. And so I went to Jacksonville State. I'm from the Anniston area, give or take. Had an academic scholarship, and I was a walk-on on the baseball team. And ends up, the youth pastor of my church was the morning guy at 93.7 in Birmingham. And so at the age of 19, after I was a complete moron and wasn't living the life I needed to be living, I screwed up my shoulder and all this in baseball, and started working at 937 when I was 19, part-time, every other day, recording the overnights and stuff like that. So at the age of 21, I was given the night show, which was really cool, and I did that for 7 years. But I went to JSU for 3 years. I went to UAB for 2 years once I was finding out I was getting close to being hired full-time, and I never graduated. I never did. I was in full-time radio by 21, and I dropped the ball, you guys. Please just finish. Just finish. That's all I can say. Just do it, because my dad still hassles me. I'm 36 years old, and my dad's like, so you're going to go and get some kind of degree? I'm like, Dad, I paid all my student loans off, okay? Like, you guys, they didn't give me money because I'm the one who lost my academic scholarship. They're like, you know, we're not paying for that for you. You figure it out on your own. And I did. It made me a better person. But nonetheless, finish school. I'll say that.
I went to Mississippi State, but my broadcasting career actually started when I was 11 years old. My church had a local TV station, very small, low-power TV station, but started using broadcast cameras at that age. And then when I went to college, worked at the TV center at Mississippi State, doing studio camera, and just tried to get as much experience as I could going out in the field, using beta cams and that kind of thing. And actually started in electrical engineering and discovered after 2.5 years that I didn't really want to do that, and got on with sports broadcasting at Mississippi State, and pretty much had to start over. So my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, who works across the street, said, hey, you could do interdisciplinary studies. So I have a degree in math, physical education, and broadcasting. So, but I do have a degree, so sorry. And then graduated from Mississippi State after having done a lot of stuff, work with the coaches shows. I was fortunate enough to get to work with ESPN and a lot of the major sports networks, and use, high-level equipment in college. Went from there to WLBT in Jackson, Mississippi. Jackson, Mississippi, for about 1.5 years, and then moved over here to Birmingham and have done various jobs at different TV stations, worked at production houses, and even owned my own business for a little while, doing broadcast production. So, yeah, that's kind of the short version of my path.
Well, I did all 4 years here at Montevallo, and yeah, broadcast journalism, and then right after college, I went to work at Strong, and I've been working it there ever since. Yeah, I don't change much, I guess.
Well, I'm John. Yes. I'm a lot like John. I did not finish. I went to school and I wasted my parents' money for about half a year, honestly. After that, I would not consider myself a production guy by nature. My brother is. We're complete 180 opposites. So when I did not do well in school, my granddad had a masonry company. I thought that's what I wanted to do. So moved to Monroeville, Alabama. If any of you are familiar with that place, it's the hottest, worst place on earth, in my opinion. Found out real quick that that's not what I wanted to do. and very passionate outdoorsman. It's what I grew up doing, love to be outdoors, love nature, fishing, hunting, and so a buddy of mine and myself had a pipe dream of having an outdoor TV show. That's what we were going to do. So left the bricklaying world, got his mom's handheld video camera, started going out, shooting our adventures, back to the networking, met some really good people, built some great relationships. Lo and behold, started a TV show, went national, did that for about 4 years, and rewind a little bit. When my buddy and I started, I didn't have a computer. I didn't have an email address. I never turned on a computer like on my own other than in school. And so we flipped coins. His dad was a businessman, and we flipped, and I all of a sudden got put in production. I was in charge of the whole TV show, editing, shooting, all of it, and he handled the sponsorship. So really got thrown into it, had to learn a lot of YouTube, a lot of asking questions. Did that for 4 years, then moved to Birmingham. My wife and I, we got married and expecting our first child, and it wasn't the lifestyle that it was a lot of time away from home. So moved back, started working, making service videos for a company in Alabaster, Southeastern Pond Management. They manage ponds. And it was just literally like to support my family, didn't know what I was doing, started making these videos. Met RJ, another guy that went to Montevallo, Dylan Lard. We kind of collaborated together and said, hey, there's a need for this. So we really got into the production world from the service video side. And that's still what we do. That's a lot of, to this day, it's been 7 years ago that we started. We started in my parents' basement, $1,500 to our name. Everybody calls it the American dream. I wouldn't I wouldn't describe it as that. It was a lot of ramen noodles and no money. But so we kind of built a niche into the corporate side and do primarily 90% of our business is digital. We do recruitment, promotional, internal, a lot of big companies now are doing internal videos. They want the production quality high. They want it to come across to their hundreds of employees. Very specific message, but yeah, that's it was a long story, but that's my story. Probably not what you wanted to hear, not graduating, but I applaud y'all for sticking with it, and I would recommend also, John, y'all go ahead and finish. So, RJ, your story, this is going to be good.
Well, much like Nate, outside of the 4 years, I finished my degree here at the University of Montevallo in sociology and mass communication broadcasting. I actually got my start in live sports, remote television with Speed Network, Fox Sports, and ESPN. I dabbled in that for a little while and still do currently. And then, as Philip said, in 2013, he formed the company and kind of went to start there and been rocking and rolling ever since.
Okay, before the students start asking y'all questions, I have one more. In your career path, can you give them an example of one ethical dilemma that you've faced, whether it be with a client or with just an ethical problem that you had to solve fairly quickly?
I've got one. I guess an ethical dilemma that we face on a weekly basis is just whether or not you can reuse somebody else's footage. You want to think in your mind that client's never going to see that video, but in actuality, they paid for it. So that's something we face all the time. You have to have those conversations with clients up front, or even have a conversation with them at the time and see if they mind. 9 times out of 10, they're probably not going to care. And they're going to say, of course, yes, you can. But that would be one that comes off the top of my head.
New canoe, first shoot. So kayak company, we're really excited about it. It's kind of in our wheelhouse from the outdoor side. They hired us. First project, we shot 1 day, came back, dumped footage, shot 2 days. Second day, came back, did not dump footage, and formatted the card. So at that point, it was like, what do you do? We can make up, oh, the office burnt down, a hard drive quit, but we just, Cody, and I'll give him all the credit, he was a chief editor in charge of that project. That day, he called and said, here's what happened, screwed up big time, and we had to make it up to him, we had to eat it. It was a situation where the client came over from out of town, got a hotel room, so we said, look, come back, we got to redo it. We're going to comp your hotel. And it was just, treat everybody kind of like you want to be treated. And I know that sounds really elementary, but the golden rule, you can never go wrong. Just always have the best character you can.
Yeah, I don't know if I really have, working by myself, I haven't really.
Do you have any problems that come up that you
Ethical
have to
dilemma.
solve that you might think might cause a problem with the client?
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever read I don't know if you ever read the disclaimer on car commercials. Those are they give me a internal ethical dilemma sometimes, I guess. But yeah, we get into some technical stuff like with music licensing and stuff like that, but nothing really. Yeah, nothing. I guess morally questionable really comes out with what I do.
I would say the music licensing is one that's kind of where mine was going from. We do a show every year with the Alabama Auto Show, and we have about a half day to shoot the whole show from top to bottom, and then it posts the next day. And we were out doing this, and I have the whole rundown. I'm like, hey, this is what we're going to do. And the person who is the on-camera talent says, hey, we're going to do carpool karaoke. A, I didn't prepare for it, and B, and she said this in front of the client, and I'm like, no, we're not, but they wanted to use a Taylor Swift song. And I said, you can't do that. This is essentially a Ford car commercial, and people pay a lot of money to Taylor Swift to use her song in that. And that was a big dilemma with people at the station and with her, neither of which are still employed by the station. So that's why it's okay. Not because of that, but they just aren't there anymore. But that was a big dilemma. It was a big argument of, can you use this person's music? Can you use, it goes back to that, can you use somebody else's footage? Can you pull a picture off YouTube, off of the Google and use it? A lot of times you can't. And a lot of people, I think a lot of people don't know that, and they'll pull a piece of music and use it, or they'll pull a YouTube video and say, courtesy YouTube. Well, YouTube didn't make that. Somebody else made that, and it's their video, it's their property. So that's one of those ethical dilemmas, and that's one of those situations that I think comes up a lot, not just in my job, but in broadcast media in general, is who owns the rights to what footage, can you use it, can't you use it, that kind of thing. So.
My answer is incredibly simplistic, and I'm going to approach this not sounding like a prude by any stretch of the imagination, because you're your own person and you can do what you want to do. It's who you are. That's who you want to be. But for us, on a personal level, what's been really cool with our ministry, with our radio network, is that we have families, and our demographic is split right down the middle. Men and women, 25 to 45, and we get parents, and I do the morning show, right? So I get people who are on their way to school, taking their kids to school, and so the whole family listens, they jam out, they love the rock and the hip hop, it's clean, the whole family can listen. And 2 or 3 years ago, we had a vape shop that wanted to advertise with us. I'm not a smoker, did it for 3 weeks in college because I had to, because of the fraternity thing, hated it, wasn't a fan, it was stupid to me, but if you want to vape, I don't care. You do you. But for me, I'm thinking, okay, that's awesome. They want to give us money. Cool. Let's think about this. And ultimately, as you can imagine, the answer was no, because I'm not going to be the guy that sits there on the radio and says, hey, look, it's cool. Everybody go shop. I don't care if you're 12. And the kids get that mentality regardless if I'm telling them to go there or not. And so, again, super simplistic, but moral dilemma, ethical, whatnot. That was the main one for me.
Do we have any students that want to come back here and ask a question instead of me asking all the questions? Come on, Matthew, Raina, come on up here and ask a question. Come on. Don't be timid. Don't be shy. And you can get behind Ryan and wait your turn.
Oh, yeah, go ahead and line up. No pressure.
So for I guess the whole postgraduate advice that you could give to anybody, you know, demo reels and applying for jobs, what are you looking for in those demo reels? Should they tailor it to your specific business? Should they, you know, I mean, obviously you should research who you're applying for, but try to have separate demo reels or a generic one, or?
I can answer that. We actually just went through this process in our department. We had a producer position open for a while, and I don't do the hiring, but fortunately we have a pretty cool creative services director who wanted to involve all of us in that process. So we got to see their reels, we got to see their, and several people were just straight out of college or, you know, very recently. And no, I wouldn't say you need to have a specific demo reel. What I looked for in the reels was kind of the quality. You know, is your audio clean? Do you know how to use a tripod? Are your shots framed well, lit well, underexposed, overexposed, that kind of thing? That's more what I'm looking for, because the specific job, you're going to learn when you get there. You're going to, I mean, I'm kind of speaking for our department, but you know, if you come into our department, we're going to teach you how to do the specific things you need, but I want to make sure that groundwork is there. You know, if I'm looking at somebody, at a candidate, you know, is their writing simple? Do they write well? We can teach you how to write the specific format that we need, but do you have a good grasp of the English language, that kind of thing? So, anybody else?
I mean, I don't have much. Y'all know my past. It doesn't take much to impress me from where I came from. So if you just carry yourself well, but RJ can speak more. RJ looks at it for our organization from a shooter standpoint. And so, you know, not even so much for me, the technical aspect, but what we do is across the board. You know, we could be shooting a Montevallo spot today, and then we could be in a quarry shooting a big, you know, D8 dozer pushing rock. So in our business model, it's just cool because everything's different. So, you know, what I'm going to do personally is I'm going to sit you down and get to know you on a personal level, just because the technical side and my background, where I came from, it was just hard work. You figure it out on your own. That's what we look for, and that's how we've built this thing. It's, you know, if everybody wasn't bought in 100%, didn't have the great attitudes, and I know I keep going back to that, but that's so important. I think more so than ever, and is that culture and just everybody, and especially in what we do, it's a collaborative effort. I mean, there's no one person that can do. I mean, yeah, you can be a jack of all trades, and Nate, I mean, I'm sorry, I know you sit in a room, but you work with a great team that produce it on the front end. So being able to work well with others and just that attitude, just going in, being optimistic, working hard and learning. Personally, that's what I look for.
I think as far as tailoring it towards the company that you want to apply for, I don't necessarily think you need to do that, but understanding what type of videos they shoot is important. If you're going into a company that shoots a lot of interviews, in my demo reel, I'd put interview setups in there. So me as the director of photography can understand that you know how to set up an interview, you know how to light an interview. But putting in your demo reel what it is you're good at, that's what I want to know, you know. I think successful directors and successful producers take styles from all over the place, and it's not just one style. So I'm looking for other people that can do things differently than what I can do, so we can collaborate. I think that's what's important in this industry, and what, you know, makes people successful is collaboration. So I don't want Philip to be able to shoot the same shot that I can shoot. I want him to be able to bring something different to the table and us collaborate together to make a great video.
I got one more thing. And also, like RJ just touched on a little bit, you know, it's easy to get complacent in what we do. You can go and shoot the same shot, and to come in, and like RJ preaches this, when we're looking at anybody else, he wants you to push him. He wants you to bring in new techniques, new ideas, you know, the cutting edge. And I think that is key in, you know, from a business standpoint, you get so focused in running the business and his department and running, you know, managing shooters and everything. So to come in, really being eager to learn, try new things, bring more to the table to better that company is, I mean, a huge quality that would go a long way for me. I can't speak with everyone else, for everyone else. Keep it down.
Yeah, we'll go back down the row.
I messed up rotation. Just leave it to me.
Efficiency. Efficiency.
All right. So I guess this question is for kind of the whole panel, but I was just curious on what are some of the businesses that just kind of stick out to you that you've done spots or commercials for that really either tested your skills or you just really had a lot of fun doing?
I have fun every day doing what we do, and honestly, I think every day tests my skills. In production, it's all about logistics, trying to figure out, especially for what we do in the outdoor space, whether it be a construction company, whether it be a trucking company or anything like that, figuring out how to safely get the crew to get the shots that you need to accomplish the video is always a challenge. And also having a client understand how long it takes to shoot a successful video. That's a challenge as well. I think the general population may think, oh, you can come out in an hour and a half and you're going to produce a 3 to 5 minute video and you're going to go about your way. Well, that's not the case. It takes days to do things like that. So I would say on a production side, those are some of the challenges that I face on a day-to-day basis.
Will you repeat the question?
Yeah. So I was just curious on like some businesses that y'all have done spots or commercials for that really stood out and tested your abilities, or that you specifically, just kind of stuck out to you in your head. You had a lot of fun, or you had a really good experience with that particular shoot or whatever, and some of the things that came up in that.
Well, I'm with RJ on everything he said, and when we got into business, we did it a little, not backwards, but we targeted the non-traditional clientele. We went after the Caterpillar dealers. We went after the Kenworth truck dealers, the people that are like-minded to us in a lot of ways, and that expect just certain things out of their culture, and so I'm like you. Every project's fun, and for us, but the same token, going into that kind of untapped space, it was very challenging in a lot of ways, and thank goodness for RJ, because when I first started, I was just a yes man. Yeah, we can do it, and RJ's over here like, I'm gonna kill you. Like, we can't do it. And I was like, yeah, we got you. And so the biggest thing that I learned from RJ is have those conversations up front, and being on the sales and the front end side, it's really hard to go in. You're nervous, you're trying to sell this customer, and they're like, can you do it? And you're like, no. And it's human nature. That's tough, but you manage expectations, and what we do is the biggest thing, and help them. We deal with a lot of marketing directors, and a lot of the marketing directors, not taking anything away from them, that was not the job role that they went into when they did. Their marketing director used to be scheduling, tournaments, getting swag, and now in 2019, all of a sudden everybody wants video, everybody wants content, and they're like, I really don't know. So you have to be able to work with those people, communicate, really teach them everything that on your end, and just manage those expectations on the front end.
Yeah, I'd say probably, a lot of our clients kind of stick with our pre-built themes, or they roll over the same thing from month to month. But every once in a while, we'll get a client that wants some kind of new one-off graphic, and it's nice to be able to go out and have to find a new way to do something, or add a new tool to your kit, to be able to pull that off for them. And so that's just good, learn something new. And other than that, probably, if you want a specific example, when people wear green in front of a green screen, don't do that.
I would say, a lot of what they said is true with my work, but being in a TV station, a lot of the times I'm doing all of my production by myself. So I light it, I shoot it, I edit, I write it, and probably the most challenging one that I've had was that auto show that I was talking about. They came to me, I think we've done it 3 times already. We're about to do it in the 4th in April. They came to me and said, hey, we need to do this auto show. It's a 30-minute special. It's sponsored by so-and-so and so-and-so. We need to have a segment for each dealer, or a bunch of dealers. We've got to do pre-produced segments. Figure it out. And most of the content had to be shot before the show opened on Thursday, so pretty much before noon. So get there at 8:30, shoot all of the content for a 30-minute show in 4 hours, and leave. And then edit it and have it on air at 6:30 the next night. So a lot of what I do is creative problem solving. So my idea was, hey, I know a guy that's got a Steadicam. I know how to fly a Steadicam. Let me just do that. I'll set it up. I'll start the interview, and then I'll just walk around the car as they're talking about it, come back, whole segment's done. So that's a minute and a half I've got that's already done, and then that's another minute and a half. So I think the fun part of dealing with different clients and dealing with, whether it be in news, which I did a long time, I've done news photography, I've done, it's creative problem solving. So if I'm in a ditch in a rainstorm and I'm telling a story, I got to figure out creatively how to keep my camera dry, but also how to creatively tell that story as a news photographer. But then on the creative side of it, doing media production, I've got to figure out, okay, how do I make these graphics align with this person's website? How do I bring motion to this and make it something that's going to be eye-catching? So I think there's just the fun part of the business that we're in is that creative problem solving, is just coming up with new ways and pushing ourselves to always do something different and new and better and whatever. So.
All right, so I'm the odd man out here. Obviously, you guys remember that time where I told you where we wear a lot of hats because we're a really small organization. Well, I do the majority of the copywriting too. So when it comes to, well, of course, like you could have guessed that, right? So you guys have it easy with the. I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. Dude, I could not imagine the hours and hours of video and sifting and all that. But when it comes to doing radio ads and things like that, we've got a tight 30 or a tight 60, and keep it tight, please, because there's voiceover people like, well, it was like a 33. Is that okay? No, it's not okay. I got to make it 30. I got multiple frequencies I got to put this commercial on. But I will tell you this, a 30-second spot is give or take 7 lines at about a size 14 font, okay? You can remember that. Keep it in your head if you ever have to write anything. But individually, as far as a specific client or something like that, they all stand out because everybody needs something different, right? So I have to get all of their info, their location, their phone number, their website, mixed in with something dynamic about their business that's going to grab people's attention. So just like all these guys have said, you want to give everybody something special. You want to have every project be just different and unique. And we've got templates in our heads and our minds where we can go in, we can lay out. Like I know what I can give to you quickly. I can make you a spot in 2 minutes. I can write it and lay it down. But you got to find the right bed music. You've got to find the right tone. Because I'm sorry, the funeral home doesn't want the Sunday type stuff. They don't want that. It's not going to work. They're going to be very upset. Bury your family here. You don't. That's not good. So essentially, it's all about the same way. The clients are like the listeners, man. They are individual. They are unique. They are special. And for us, doing what we all do, man, if you are grateful for somebody investing into your organization, you're going to do the best job possible and not just milk your way through it. So that's my answer.
So my question, I guess, specifically is for John. I'm just curious, what's a daily day like in radio, and what are some challenges that you face daily throughout working on radio?
Every day is a challenge. There's too much to do. Number one, I live an hour from work, so that commute's fun every morning. Now, granted, coming into Birmingham from the area that I live in, I come in at 5:30 in the morning, so that's not a problem. On the radio side, so I do the morning show from 7 to 10, and then the crappy part of the day comes in. That's the fun part. That's awesome. The preparation as far as for the next day's show, that's one of the first things that I do. We have a guy out of Nashville that voice tracks the afternoon show for me, so I'm making sure he's got the playlist. He's able to talk about the music properly. I'm waiting for him to send me his break so I can load it in. I'm checking the rest of the day to make sure the spots are coming in right, even though we have a traffic manager for that who handles all of it. You're trying to build relationships. For us as a ministry, we're building relationships with pastors and youth pastors and nonprofit organizations. A big part of what I do for my show is some of these nonprofits that are doing incredible work behind the scenes, they need a voice. So for us on a specific level, like I want my show to be that. Like, hey, whoever you are, whatever you're doing, nonprofits, come in. If you're making a difference in people's lives, let us be the voice for you. Let us get it out there. So, I'm trying to schedule things like that. I do a lot of the sales for us as well. There's, again, all the hats. Just stack them up, right? So day to day, it's different every single day because you never know what's going to pop up. For us, there's always computer issues when you're not a part of a larger organization, like a Clear Channel or iHeartRadio or something like that. So, we have our computer engineers that are our friends that are on standby. Hey, this computer crashed. Or yesterday, I was on the phone with Windstream all day. Why? Because AT&T is slacking in Tuscaloosa, and one of their lines is exposed, and there's rainwater getting into my data line that's going directly to my Tuscaloosa tower, and listeners are texting and calling in, hey, 88.5's off the air. Well, that helps. And I'm on the phone with Windstream. Hey, like we're radio, advertising gives us money, and we give you that money. So if you could like reimburse us for that, that would be great. And also, get somebody to fix it while you're at it. So it's juggling, dude. There's a lot of different things going on, and I'm impressed that there's actually a radio question. So thank you. You've made my day.
Hi, it's me again. I actually have two questions, one for radio and one for the. I guess so.
Siri's always listening.
Yes, always listening. But I guess I'll go ahead and ask the video question first. Is what are some softwares and programs that you'd rather your people be more like familiar with? Like, for instance, I'm trying to learn DaVinci right now, and I'm learning how to edit with a tablet just for sake of learning new things. But like, what are things that proficiencies that you look for, skills that you look for? Do you look for like equipment managing skills, either like soldering and other stuff, or that kind of thing?
I guess I'll start with that. We currently use the Adobe Suite where we work. When I got there, it was Avid Media Composer. I hate it. But like I said before, I don't think it's any specific software. You're learning DaVinci Resolve. That's similar enough to Adobe Premiere. There's a free software out there called HitFilm Express that's similar to Adobe Premiere. I've got friends over in Tuscaloosa that swear by Final Cut 10. Again, I think it's more that knowing what you want, and then you can pick up. A lot of the edit systems are very similar. It's just finding the buttons to do what you want it to do. So from my perspective, I would just say, learn how to edit and learn the proper way to put things in order and balance your audio and fade your audio in and fade your audio out so that you manage those details in the edit. And then the how you do that in the particular software is just going to depend on where you're working. And what they decide to buy you, or if you have your own business, what you decide to buy. I always have, as far as the tools and stuff, our engineers don't necessarily love it, but I always have a multi-tool in my pocket, because if you're out on a shoot and your tripod starts slipping, you're either going to have to leave and come back and do it again, or you're going to have to know how to fix little things. If it's a major problem, and if your camera breaks in half, you're not going to be able to fix that. But little things, tightening a screw that's, or tightening up your tripod that can make a big difference, and not slow down the shoot, it pays dividends to know how to do those types of things and really fix your own problems. Even computer problems, if you know basic understanding of Windows or Apple products, those can help you get out of some problems too. How to start and stop things and reboot things. Those have saved me. That electrical engineering, 2.5 years of electrical engineering has saved me numerous times. So.
Yeah, for editing and stuff, probably the specific software Adobe is going to be your standard for advertising. Maybe something different if you're doing long form stuff. And you can work around some of the more popular plugins and stuff. People might like those skills if that's something you're interested in. And also, I would say maybe knowing how to work a hard disk drive to properly store everything. That made my life pretty hard here at Montevallo a few times, losing a lot of data. Oh yeah, that's pretty much it for editing.
Learn how to be organized.
Yeah, organize and back up all your work.
This question is completely above my pay grade.
I think our editors would tell you if, you know, we use Adobe Suite. I don't think it matters to them though. Philip and I learned on Final Cut, and so when we started, we were using Final Cut. One of us was using Adobe, Dylan, at the time was using Adobe Premiere, and Phil and I were still using Final Cut. Well, when we made the switch, Dylan was smart enough to take all the shortcuts from Final Cut and put it into Adobe, and it was like we never even skipped a beat, and we just spent a couple hours and got used to it. I think, like Mark said, if you have a general knowledge of a platform, I think you'll be able to cross-reference through it, every other platform. And as far as gear goes, I think, you know, a maintenance schedule goes a long way, especially when you own a lot of equipment, like I'm sure all of us up here do. Just maintaining equipment every week is extremely important, and getting on a schedule, even if you know it's not broke, but just cleaning it and understanding the ins and outs of your gear and how it operates, and then just networking online. There's a lot of forums out there that have saved me a lot of times. If a camera has malfunctioned on a shoot, I was able to Google something, and Google, you know, someone already had that problem, and they told me to take the battery out 6 times and open the lid, blah, 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 do this to do this, and it'll crank your camera back up, and it works. It's just, you know, getting a group of cameramen in whether it's in Birmingham or across the nation, like sometimes you can do with the interwebs these days, and understanding there are camera forums out there to answer your questions you may have on repairs and things like that. Oh, bingo.
Oh, yeah.
And along the maintenance schedule, always take care of your gear. Always baby it if it's owned by somebody else. If you own it, always take care of your gear. You know, treat it like it is worth $2 billion, because that will save you all the headaches. You know, you do that minor maintenance, you're not going to have the major headaches and the problem. You know, I've used people's cameras, I'll grab them, and if it's somebody that doesn't take care of their camera, you know, the viewfinder's fallen off, or, you know, the tape heads haven't been cleaned. Yeah, I came from the tape days. But, you know, you get those hits in your recording, which you don't have as much with digital, but, you know, you might have a card slot that's broken or something like that, and that can kill you on a shoot. But if you take care of that gear, and you know the ins and outs of it, and you know what needs to be cleaned, and you know, you can feel when something starts to go wrong, it can really help prevent all of those type of maintenance issues that you might come up with.
And what would you all say or think is the most important piece of equipment that we have or I have as a videographer? What would you say is the most important piece of equipment I use on a day-to-day basis? Anybody have any ideas? I'm a videographer. What would you say it is? No, it's actually the vehicle I got to the job in. If I can't get to the job, how am I supposed to use my camera? You know, I have a camera on my phone. People are shooting movies on their iPhones these days. You know, you can shoot anything with anything, but
This is good.
if I'm not able to get to the job that I need to get to, we travel all over the place. And so when the company bought us a production truck, I soon realized, like, if the production truck is not running, then how am I going to get there? You know, and that goes into the maintenance schedule. You know, you never think about it until you have to be somewhere at 3 a.m. in the morning and you can't get there, or you're broken down on the side of the road.
Or you're going to California.
Right,
we're on Strong Tour.
We're working with Strong and headed to California, and we make it right outside of Birmingham, and we break down. I have 2 days to make it 48 hours, and now here I am broken down on the side of the road because we weren't maintaining the vehicle that we were in. So I quickly learned in my career that sometimes you have to look bigger on what is your most important tool, and for us and what we do, driving and traveling all the time, that's the vehicle we're in. So.
And then my second question that was for Mr. Radio is Mr. Radio Star is
False.
False. Is what are, I guess, I don't know if anyone's asked you yet, what do you look for potential employees in the radio world, and what are some aspects that are important to your side of it?
Yeah, in radio, obviously, as you can tell from listening to me, I'm not the typical big radio voice guy. I'm really mediocre sounding, truth be told, and you can laugh at that. It's okay. It won't hurt my feelings. Man, radio is about personality, okay? And so the people that are willing to bring you on an experience, and for me, I have 2 interns that have turned into employees. They're 2 of our other 3 employees. One of my very first interns is now our business manager. He pretty much runs one whole side of the business. And the reason that it was so easy to hire him is because he was always willing to go beyond. He was always willing to do more. He was always willing. He started when he was 20, and he's great at Photoshop. And he was like, man, because I can get the vision in my head and I can line things up and I can find the font that I want to use, but I can't put it together in Photoshop. That's, I'm a little too old for that generation. I could go back and learn it, but I'm too busy producing and talking to people and having relationships and doing the radio show. So man, he went above and beyond. He created things. He's like, hey, what do you think about this? Hey, can we do this? I'm like, absolutely, you do it. And he's like, I can really do it? Yes. So people that are willing to, and it's a lot like, we get to work with so many bands and artists, and when I tell them, hey, they want to know how does one get well known? How does one start traveling? You got to be willing to do the free stuff. You can never be too big. Even when you are big, you can never be too big. You got to be willing to go out of your way and always try to do more and show your willingness to care and not make it all about yourself, but about make it about the organization as a whole, just like these guys have talked about. It takes, we've all got different ideas, and if you push me and you challenge me, I'm going to welcome that because you were willing to step up. For me on a personal level in school, in particular, there were times where I was real quiet and I didn't speak up for myself, and I could have had better opportunities. And so that's what I would encourage you guys to do, bigger than anything, is to always say, hey, I'm willing to be here. I'm willing to do more. Is there something I can do? And not so much don't take no for an answer, but don't take no for an answer. Try. If you're passionate, if you know that you're called to it, if you know that's who you're supposed to be, find another way. And if you have to take another path, find another path to get to where you want to be.
We have time for one more question, and it'll be over. Each of you reflect back to where you're 20 years old and give yourself some advice for these up-and-coming media folks.
Again, essentially what I was just saying, I wish that I would have been willing to learn a little more and to push myself a little more. I had a lot of great opportunities just from the way God lined things up, even through my stupidity and selfishness. And to not go with the crowd, that would essentially be the thing that really held me back for a few years. Was I'm such a people person that I wanted to do the things that everyone was doing, and it really held me back because I just wanted to keep myself at a certain level when I should have been pushing to do more and to do greater things. So you can love people and be there for people and take care of people, but push yourself not to be better than them, but to be a better version of you a little more each and every day.
I would try, it sounds cliche, but learn something new every day. That's what I've tried to do throughout my career. And I think you guys have so many more resources. You guys, so many people are looking at broadcasting or, commercial production or whatever it is, that one little field. But you have the opportunity to go out and explore YouTube on how to make a full-length feature film. And the fun part with that is, and the fun part that I'm enjoying, the part that I'm learning now, is trying to bring those techniques into the broadcast world. Even when I was in news a few years ago, it was, how do I try to make this look a little bit better? How do I try to bring the techniques that I use? I do wedding films on the weekends. How do I try to bring the things that I do for those wedding films that are a little bit more cinematic into the news world? And kind of cross-pollinate those different things. Go out and look at YouTubers like Peter McKinnon, Casey Neistat, all those guys that are, kind of changing the way that media looks, and bring that into the field and be the pioneer that, the person that comes in and pushes RJ, and pushes me, pushes any of us, the old guys in the field, but brings those ideas and helps them learn. I think learning something new every day is the most valuable thing you can do for yourself.
Yeah, I would say, get even more involved and learn, start picking up new skills that start with what you're interested in, because, you always want to give yourself the biggest head start and the most options that you can. And that would just be my advice, when I was 20.
It's an exciting time. I mean, for you guys especially, we're in the infancy, We all grew up with film. We all grew up with broadcast, and now it's going into a whole new realm, which y'all know way more than I do because you're on devices, and that's the culture that you grew up in. But media is, and not your traditional media. There's going to be things, and there are every day, different uses, different outlets, different distribution channels that you guys are way ahead of all of us on. And so, for me, that's incredibly exciting. It's exciting for us, but even more so for you guys. Technology, when we were, like, we talked to the older guys, we call them, and now I'm saying things that's like I'm the old guy, which is crazy. But, the barrier of entry now is affordable. That was the only reason Pitts Media it was able to be. We didn't have crazy investor funding. We had literally $1,500 that we scrounged up to start. And now the cost, like, don't be intimidated by it. Go after it. If you really want it, you can do it. And that cost isn't near what it was even 10 years ago. Y'all probably think, and this is me going back to, I'm talking like that old person. When we used to send text, it cost 35 cents. Is that crazy to y'all? Like, that's nuts. And so now, with social media, it's wide open. But for me, and I know I've said it, and I'm going to beat it in the ground, the relationships are one thing that you cannot disregard. And that's Mike Strong, this building. He was a huge mentor. We had a passion, for the outdoors. We had a common interest. We built a friendship. He was one of the biggest mentors that I've ever had. And he still comes by and sits at the office, eats popcorn. But having guys like that and working, the relationships, even if you're not a people person, I was a people person, that's my strong suit. But I still work very hard at relationships, whether that's voiceover talent, whether that's, like RJ said, somebody that we can call and say, dude, our copter's not working, what do you do? And so those relationships, nurture them, work on them, and then, just do the right thing for the right reasons.
I think if I would tell my 20-year-old self something is just understand you can't build a house in a day. And if you put that in relationship to your career, it's not going to happen overnight. It's a slow grind. When I was 20, I wanted it immediately, I wanted to make a lot of money immediately. Who doesn't want to make a lot of money? I think that's, what most people want these days. But it takes time, and you have to put in the work, and you have to make the relationships, and you have to do the free jobs. That's just part of it in this industry. Even for our business, when we started in 2013, we all wanted it immediately, and we were close to our 30s, when we started the business. And just understanding it doesn't happen overnight. You don't build a house overnight. And it takes years, but you can make it in this industry. There are things out there to do. There are resources that you can connect with, and it will happen if you're determined to do it. So.
Okay. Well, on behalf of the Department of Communication, I would like to thank each and every one of you for coming and sharing your insight with us, and we really appreciate it. And thank you for your time and energy. And we're officially over now. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Thanks,